Good afternoon to all of you who are joining us from India, and a very good morning to those of you who are joining us from Europe. Welcome to the second day of the European Research Day India. My name is Samrat Kumar. I am the coordinator of EURAXESS here in India. As I said already to those who joined yesterday, maybe they know that the ERD is the annual flagship event of EURAXESS, which takes place in different regions in the world, including countries like Australia, Brazil, China, Korea, Japan, North America, and the ASEAN countries. The India edition is organized in partnership with the EU delegation here in India. And of course, I would like to take the opportunity to thank the EU delegation and especially the Research Innovation Section team with Tanya Friedrichs and her colleagues, Dr. Vivek Dham, Kinshit, Bihani, and Tejinder Kaur, who have been working meticulously in the organization and the making of this event. Today, our focus is on researcher and student mobility programs under the EU Horizon Europe Framework Program. But we also have two EU member states today with us, Hungary and Sweden, who will present also the opportunities to conduct studies and or research in Europe in their respective countries. Now, like yesterday, I would now ask Tanya Friedrichs, Minister Counselor and Head of the Research Innovation Section at the EU delegation, to give the opening remarks of today's event. Thank you, Tanya. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Samrat. Since you introduced myself, I don't have to do that again. Thank you very much for your nice words. But as you said, this is one of our flagship events. It's not EU Research Day, but Europe Research Day, because research opportunities in Europe are beyond and above the European Union Research and Innovation Program Horizon Europe. Member states have lots to offer as well, and that's why I am very happy that Dr. Hilda Farkas from Hungary and Ms. Lina Kukrecha from Mission Sweden are also joining and will present what they have to offer to the scientific and innovation community in India. All this shows that we are very committed in cooperation between Europe and India. Never has science been so important, so never can we be enough doing promotion on the importance of research and innovation, and especially international cooperation, and therefore Destination Europe is what we hope you will look at if you want to engage internationally on research and innovation. We have a very nice and heavy program, so I will stop here. This is an awareness raising day. Please take advantage of the proposals, the programs that will be presented to you, and also we are available for questions and answers if you are interested in pursuing cooperation between Europe and India. Thank you very much, Samrat, for offering us that opportunity to participate with you these annual European Research Days.
Thank you so much, Tanya. And I would say back to Tanya for the first presentation of Horizon Europe. Tanya will give us an overview about the new research framework program of the European Union, and it's a lot of information, but Tanya, you will make a nice summary of it, I'm sure.
I do my best, Samrat, after this challenge that you asked me. But yes, as I said just a minute ago, we have possibilities of cooperation on research and innovation between Europe and India, and then with Europe and at the EU level, all cooperation takes place within the framework of our framework program, which is now called Horizon Europe. For those that are familiar with cooperation on research and innovation at European level, EU level, this is the successor program to the previous program, Horizon 2020. But we are almost already at the end of the first year of Horizon Europe. So for me, Horizon 2020 by now is history, and I invite you to look forward to future cooperation under this fantastic new program. This new program, as I said, is designed, is the EU program. It's very international and also multidisciplinary. It is designed for a period of 7 years, from 2021 to 2027. Why are we doing that? Is so that the scientific community and the innovation and the innovators, they know what we consider important in the coming years to invest in research and innovation. And all our opportunities to cooperate are published on a regular basis in biannual and updated annual work programs. If you look at the calls of proposals, you will see that we are always calling upon finding solutions, and finding solutions by improving and going beyond the state of the art. So you have state of the art and scientific excellence, but to speed up the finding of the solutions to the global challenges, we have new calls and ask you scientists and innovators, academia, to help us in finding solutions for a better world. It is therefore important, when you look at possibilities of cooperation on research and innovation within the Horizon Europe program, to understand the vision of our program. And the vision is that we do invest a lot in Europe in research and innovation, and together with the member states, we decide for this period of 7 years on which areas we will focus our research and innovation actions. But our research is not done in isolation. It is there to underpin our main policy actions and objectives that we have taken at European Union level. And of course, one of the major, the overarching policy agenda of the EU is that we have pledged, and we were one of the first ones to make that pledge, to become carbon neutral by 2050. And that will not come by itself. That will require huge innovation and research efforts. And for those of you that listen to Glasgow COP26, I think I have never heard so much the need for research, technology, and innovation as during these last days. Also, the digital agenda is high at the EU level, and therefore we do have a lot of calls and on digital agenda. Post-COVID, of course, everybody realizes that our healthcare system is not resilient enough, and therefore we need research for that, and the importance of fundamental values. Research is also there to help achieving the sustainable development goals, and of course, we also invest in research and innovation for the EU to become more competitive and create economic growth in a sustainable way. The program is designed in such a way that it facilitates the collaboration, the links between the different researchers, institutes in each member state and beyond, because a characteristic of our way of engaging in research and innovation is the importance of international cooperation, to be able to engage with researchers, institutes, universities across the globe, wherever is the best scientists that can help finding solutions to the problems that we are facing. So in a nutshell, Horizon Europe consists of 3 pillars. The first pillar is what we is there to strengthen the excellent science, and we can't do science without scientists. That's why a very important part of our program has a very important budget to help scientists to increase their knowledge through doctoral programs to postdoc programs to creating networks of scientists for complementary knowledge, also to strengthen the research infrastructure, or the European Research Council, which is most likely also familiar to India because you're performing well. And there we give grants to scientists that have a curiosity-driven, disruptive research and would need a team to do that. Pillar 2 is everything that research on global challenges, goes from, of course, health remains a very important part of our program, but also culture, creativity, security of society, digital industry and space, climate change, the whole bioeconomy. And new in Horizon Europe is a pillar only devoted to innovation, where we also let innovators pitch to develop their ideas in a different way than, of course, doing long-term more fundamental research, and it has to go faster. And we are also very much looking now at how this pillar 3 on innovation can be made open to international cooperation. Open to the world, I already mentioned to you, that means that all of calls of proposals are, you Indians can participate. It is open by default because sometimes now we believe that it is not appropriate to have international cooperation on very specific areas that are strategic, and therefore we don't allow participation with third countries, but you could all, but the rule is really open by default. International cooperation is very much encouraged. Besides, every call is open to your participation. But in addition to that, we have calls where we say that here in that specific topic, we believe that international cooperation is very appropriate. We have two main ways of cooperation or of opportunities. That is the collaborative research. On that dimension of the program, we focused yesterday. Today, we will focus on the individual researchers, where we do grant funding to the scientists themselves to strengthen their capacity and develop their ideas. And that is this is the whole program of the Marie Skłodowska-Curie actions, of which one specific scheme will be, of which 2 of the 4 specific schemes will be presented later to you today. What I would also like to underline is that our program is not only international and open to international cooperation, but it is also a gateway or a possibility to translate the agendas of various multilateral fora into concrete calls of proposals. You have the Mission Innovation, that is a group of countries that was created in the marches of COP25, for example, where we said that if we need to achieve this overall target of 1.5, we have to have more of an energy mix and invest more in renewable energy. That costs money, and then also we have pledged that we should work together on the same research objectives to achieve, for example, biomass, solar energy, wind energy, smart grids capacity. The Mission Innovation, that agenda would be set, and that would then be translated into calls of proposals in our work program. And that is the same rationale that we follow for various multilateral fora on health and on the International Bio Forum and so on. The program is the program of the 27 member states. That means that I have listed them because it's not always easy to remember all the 27 member states. And then there is also the countries that are associated to our program that have this special status by concluding an association agreement. And therefore you can also make collaborations with them without having to worry on whether they will get the funding or not. And I mentioned this here because also the UK, who was a member state and is no longer, is now still part of the research and innovation family through the association to our program. And there you will see the list of countries for whom that is relevant. Also Israel, Turkey, all countries with strong research and innovation capacity are countries where you can easily collaborate with. You need always in our program to have a consortium of minimum 3 different of entities of 3 different member states or countries associated to the country. So that means that, for example, Germany, Spain and the UK, then you have your minimum 3, or Spain, Norway and Israel, you always would have your minimum 3, and then you add the number of entities as necessary to execute your idea that you have to a consortium to address the problem and find a solution as we stated. And it is in that additional number 3 that India can always participate to the submission of a proposal. Very important characteristic of our program is that it is open to the academic and the non-academic sector. So the universities and the research institutes, both private and public, and from the non-academic, the SMEs, industries, startups, NGOs. Also important before you start to looking at our program and forming a proposal is what type of knowledge do you have, what is already the level of your technology, and where do you want to go. Do you have, are you into the business of a technology readiness level of 4 to 6, then the action that would be applicable for you, of interest to you, would be the research innovation action. If you have already a prototype or a technology that you can develop to level 6 to 8 to become a prototype of a market replication, then you would have to look for an innovation action. This is important because the rate of funding that we give in one action to another is different. But I have immediately to add that we have to make a distinction between participation and funding. I kept saying that you researchers, entities, universities from India are eligible to participate in all our calls open by default. You are not eligible to automatically funded by our program. This is because India, just as Brazil, Russia, China, and today also Chile, and the industrial countries are considered emerging economies, where we believe that these countries have a sufficient own national research and innovation budget that it is not us to pay for you. And but then, of course, your participation is either subject to your own funding, because your institution would provide it, or yourself, or you would your contribution would be remunerated to a contribution in kind. Ideally, of course, as in the past, we would need a co-funding mechanism, which means that we at the European Commission level, with the Department of Science and Technology, the Department of Biotechnology, have agreed on a mechanism that if Indian entities participate in our program and are selected, that the government would agree to fund you. I regret to say that as of today, we have not reached a consensus or a sufficient advance in the discussion to say that we will have a co-funding mechanism that would fund the selected Indian entities under the Horizon Europe collaboration project. In exceptional situations, if your contribution is really required for the execution of the project, Horizon Europe would fund. This is why we say not automatically eligible to funding. There could be an exception to that. I quickly go over the work programs because, as I mentioned, all the calls of proposals are published in work programs. work programs in a time span of 2 years so that you can already plan on what are we calling upon. And then in per cluster, in the cluster health, you have thematic areas, all areas in which are of great interest to India that I know: mental health, chronic diseases, infectious diseases, the impact of climate change on health, the need for artificial intelligence, repurposing medicines. On all these various topics, you will have calls. And within these calls, there are also calls that encourage international cooperation. As I mentioned, we attach great importance also to calls that are fostering the cultural links, the creativity, the inclusiveness, and also in those calls there are great opportunities, and even some calls are targeting India. The cluster 3 on civil security for society is also including different topics and thematic areas that are of great importance for our global challenges, and also for the challenges that both EU and India face, such as the need to become more resilient to disasters, and all that what is required. We have several calls on that. Again, always based on the principle you can participate, but we don't foresee funding. The cluster 4, which was presented yesterday, has a huge amount of calls, hugely interesting and of interest to India and the EU to work together. I'm only extracting some examples and areas that target India or other international partners, but for those who were connected yesterday could definitely see that there is many more than that. Same for calls on climate, energy, and mobility, variety of topics, and also the cluster that was presented yesterday on food bioeconomy, many topics that are of interest to you. But today, that is the pillar 2 on collaboration, which was presented yesterday. Now I can go very fast, even faster, to the first pillar of our Horizon Europe program, which focuses on excellent science. And that is either through the grants granted by European Research Council, or through Marie Skłodowska-Curie actions, or through infrastructure. Here, in a nutshell, the 5 actions that we have under the European Research Council. No calls are open for the time being, so it is just to bring that to your attention. For if you want to develop your research knowledge and career, please keep an eye on the calls under the European Research Council. There are really top, this is really, I would say, the best program of our whole Horizon Europe program for researchers. Then the 5 Marie Curie actions, of which Vivek, my colleague from the section, will present you the possibilities for doctoral networks, and my colleague from Brussels, Marlene Barter, will later on present the staff exchange, because there also there is a call running. Most important now, after having run through all these possibilities that you might be interested in and say, oh yes, that sounds like interesting for me, you have to search further. So that is only, as I said, what we do here today is create awareness. If you think that we have topics of interest areas, then you have to go to the funder and tenders portal, and with different criteria and search methods, you can see if we have currently a call on the topic in which you have expertise and would like to engage internationally with Europe, and also have, of course, in mind the call deadlines. But the good thing is, and that is, of course, also why we choose to do the research days now, is that we have a whole series of calls that have opened under the part the work program 2021-2022. So most of the calls that we will have in 2022 are already open, and therefore I really encourage you, recommend you to go to the funder and tenders portal to see if we have topics and areas of your interest. Another question that we always hear, and is could be a bit of a challenge, is how to find partners, because as we explained, you need to constitute consortia, minimum 3, but always more. This is not so much of an issue for an Indian participant. You don't need to find the 10 or 12 partners. You need to find 1 or 2 solid partners in Europe that will then help you constitute a good consortium. So therefore, our recommendation is always to use your network first. Like, you all are connected to Europe. You all work already with our top leading institutes in Europe. And you just ask them, hi, have you looked at Horizon Europe? Are there any calls where you would like to submit and where you think that we could participate? And that will ring a bell to them. And then that will start having the ball rolling in looking at possible collaboration, submission of proposals, and then hopefully through a very competitive evaluation system, I have to add, be selected and start working together. But we have a tool that helps you in finding partners and also helps you in explaining the modalities of how to submit a proposal. And that is you go to the national contact points. And then, for example, if you say, I know that the Netherlands or Sweden or Germany is known for a given area in which you have expertise, you just look at the contact point of that country in your given area, and you ask them if they would be interested to connect you to stakeholders of their country to form a consortia. And also another way I like to recommend as to find partners is to look at Cordis, where we do list the ongoing, but also the projects that we have previously funded on a given topic. We never fund the same topic, but the same area you could find. And there you would see which are these institutes, have they experience with Horizon 2020/Europe, and are they keen to work internationally, and they can share their experience with you. So you have to be proactive, knock at the door of the people. Don't wait until somebody knocks at your door. Therefore, the world is too big, the program is too large, and it is those that are proactive that will get the best cooperation opportunities. And you need to take a lot of opportunities before you are selected, because I have to say that our program is very competitive. We get oversubscription sometimes, and we have an average success rate of 14%. But that shouldn't discourage you from looking at submission of participating, because formation of projects is already a good learning process, can bring you collateral collaborations as well. On this note, I would like to say thank you very much for being with us, to having interest in the Horizon Europe program. More information on how we do it and on links where we can help you are available on the last page of this presentation. Thank you very much.
Merci beaucoup. Thank you so much, Tanya. You were even faster than yesterday in your presentation, and you already explained it to us that yesterday we had a focus on the pillar 2 and 3, and today we are really going into pillar 1, which gives a broad overview about opportunities for students and researchers who like to conduct PhD or postdoc studies in Europe. And most of the questions which came in so far, Tanya, during your presentation were on the PhD and postdoc opportunities. And I think that's the perfect transition to Dr. Vivek Dham, who is the advisor at the Research Innovation section at the EU delegation, who will now tell us about the Msc Doctoral Networks How does it work, Vivek? How can Indian students and researchers, find PhD opportunities under this excellent program? Vivek, floor is yours. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Samrat. Just reconfirm if my screen is full screen now. Is it visible?
Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you very much, Samrat. And I'm just taking over from Tanya where she had left. So I will try to finish fast because most of the slides which Tanya had already shared, I'll be quickly going through that. So I will give you an overview of a PhD program under the Marie Curie Fellowship, Marie Curie Action. So this is the outline of my today's presentation. I will also touch upon the postdoc fellowship, which will be announced in 2022, but that is just in dates. But my focus will be mainly on doctoral network for organizations and doctoral fellowship for individual researchers. So if you look at this European Union's program, so basically European Union funds the research career development from masters, PhD, postdoc, early stage researchers, experienced researchers. If you see, there is a whole range of schemes and programs available by the European Union. So the most popular in India is Erasmus Plus and Marie Curie. Erasmus Plus is focusing on master's degree and Marie Curie for PhD, postdoc, and exchange of faculties and staff exchange. So as the focus of today's event is mainly on doctoral network under the Marie Curie, I will restrict my presentation only specific to Marie Curie postdoctoral fellowship program. But before I go to this details, I just wanted to give you a highlight because this is a tremendously competitive and very popular program, not only in Europe, but across the globe. And this is just in figures, how much, the investment, how much number of participants and which sectors have participated in Horizon 2020, that is last 7 years. There are 65,000 researchers have benefited from Marie Curie program, and out of that 25,000 PhDs were given. Around 37% researchers are from outside Europe. So it is truly a global program. Again, the investment is huge. There are more than 1,000 doctoral programs were funded in last 7 years. Industrial participation is more than 5,000, and female participation is increasing every year. So this is really a very good sign and very popular program. And how the Indians did in last 7 years, fantastic. The India is one of the most successful non-European country. They rank first among the non-European countries. Around 2,000 researchers benefited from Marie Curie program, followed by China and other countries. But India ranked for 2020 is the highest beneficiary under the Marie Curie program. If you look at this, there are more than 1,400 PhD grants under the co-fund and ITN. That is the old earlier name was Innovation Training Program. So 1,400 PhDs were given in 7 years, and 450 postdoc fellowships were given. So this is a fantastic achievement in India. This shows the quality of researchers, that is the quality of skills the Indian researchers have. And this program will continue in Horizon Europe, that is for 21-27. So where the Indians were going all in last 7 years, if you look at this graph, that Germany, France, UK, Italy, Spain, Netherlands, Belgium, these are the destinations where the maximum Indians went for PhD and postdoc. So the success rate is ranged between 14 to 18% in last 7 years. So as Tanya mentioned, now we are in the next phase, that is Horizon Europe. This is the program which will run for 21-27. So under this particular program, Marie Curie will be part of it. And that is what the pillar 1, the excellence of science, where ERC, Marie Curie, and research infrastructures are clumped together. This also underlines the amount of importance European Commission, European Union give for idea-driven basic fundamental research. So Again, Tanya mentioned whole list of countries, but why I'm showing it, because when you are going to choose your PhD destination, you will have option of 27 European member states plus 18 associated countries. So approximately 46 countries will be an option, 45, 46 countries will be an option for you to do a PhD in these particular countries. And popularly, apart from the European member state, a lot of Indians are going to Norway, Israel, as well as now the UK is no longer a member state, so it is an associated country. UK is part of now Horizon Europe. So these are the countries where you can find an option of a post institute which can host you as a PhD or postdoctoral candidate. So as I mentioned, this program was launched way back 25 years back by European Union, and it is named after the legendary researcher, scientist Marie Curie, because of her life, her path, her attitude reflects the main features of that program, that is excellence and mobility. She traveled across from Poland to France. International dimensions brings into that action. Her Nobel Prize in 2 disciplines also reflects the multidisciplinary approach. So these are the cores of this program, and that is why the program is named after her. So this program basically provides some career development and training to an excellent researchers across the world. So if you, which I already mentioned, because if you see this Marie Curie PhD program are not regular PhD or postdoctoral program, they are much more different than the regular PhD. We are trying to have a new generation of researchers, which not only have a research background, but also a transferable new industrial skills. So what we are looking at, those researchers which are able to tackle the upcoming challenges, their skills which can be adaptable to a market as well as the industry. So a lot of innovation formation goes at the early stage of a researcher. And as I mentioned, it is already open to the entire world. So any researchers at any age is interested to do research in Europe, this program is open for those people. Again, the key features, that is researchers training and skill, that is the core of this program. Again, it is a bottom-up approach. What it means that a researcher can choose a research field of his or her choice. Any field of research is possible. I will give you the list after this slide. Again, it is open to international intersectoral mobility. Physical mobility of researchers is the core of this program. Again, it's very attractive and employment highly paid scholarship program. Not only researchers benefit, but the organizations also get a lot of collaboration opportunities visible outside the world, and industrial participation is more and more core of this particular program. As I mentioned, what it means, the bottom-up approach, it is any field of research, that is these are the 8 panels under the Marie Curie program. You name all the research fields are covered under this: physics, chemistry, life science, environmental science. More importantly, information and science engineering. More importantly, social science and economic science is also part of this scientific field. Generally, in India, we differentiate social science and economics in a different field, but in Europe, it's considered as a scientific field. So those people who are not part of this, maybe you wanted to share this information to your friends which are working in this particular field. So today's topic is focused on doctoral network. So I will only focus on doctoral network. But as Tanya mentioned, it has 5 actions for PhD, postdoc, staff exchange. Marlene will explain the details about that. And then Marie Curie and citizens outreach programs. So what is this doctoral network program? How it is formed? Basically, this doctoral network program provides an opportunity to organizations as well as the individuals. So let us see what is the objective of this particular program. Basically, well-defined needs for various research fields of a bottom approach. Whatever the upcoming challenges, societal challenges, or the technology breakthroughs are needed, so those kind of skills, those kind of research and innovation has been supported under the doctoral network program. So innovation is core of this entire program, the skill formation. Researchers which gain transferable skills, also career development plans, supervisors from academia and industry. This is the novelty, and this is the core of this program, which benefits largely to a young PhD candidate. So as I mentioned, this is a doctoral network, because this doctoral network is the word itself. It indicates it's a multi-beneficiary action focusing on training of doctoral as well as the skills, transferable skills. So that is why it has two components. One is industrial doctorate and joint doctorate. Under the industrial doctorate, training is provided by academia and industry. It is a joint supervision. Under the joint doctoral program, it is a collaboration between the multidisciplinary actors of academia, and it is joint selection and supervision by different academic research institutions across the Europe. So who applies? How does it work? Basically, the application for doctoral network is formed by a consortium of academic universities, research institute, industries, all together comes forward, and they prepare a doctoral program which they think is of a futuristic nature. So these are the programs are defined by the consortium. And for this, the eligibility, at least there are minimum 3 independent legal entities are required from the member state or associated country. Out of that, minimum 1 beneficiary should be from member state. On top of this minimum requirement, any entity across the world, including India, could be part of this program either as an associated partner. So Marlene will explain what is associated partner in details. So this particular program again targets the doctoral training to the researcher. So as the fellowship for this doctoral network limited to 36 months, that is a 3 years duration, is the maximum. You will have a secondment, that is a part of formation. You will have opportunity to work in an industry, that is 50% under the doctoral network. So this is a fantastically designed program which has a mix of industry, academia. You will have an exposure not only for research, but how you become an idea which is commercially viable. So you will have an entrepreneurial skills. So these are the uniqueness of this particular program. What I already mentioned, how does it work? Basically, the candidate doesn't apply to European Commission directly. Basically, the consortium, which is meant of academia and industry, they form a proposal. They submit that doctoral proposal to European Commission. They compete against each other, and the selected consortia will be awarded a grant by the European Commission. So that particular consortia advertise a recruitment for PhD candidate. This advertisement of PhD and postdoc are published on EuroAccess website. Again, note down, all these advertisement for PhD candidates are advertised on EuroAccess website. So you will not directly apply for commission, but instead you will apply for a particular university or the consortium. So these calls are open for all the candidates across the world. Any PhD candidate interested to do a PhD in Europe can apply. The selection of recruitment is done by the consortia, that is the industry and academia, who had won the proposal from European Commission, and they recruit these particular researchers under their payroll. So that is why the PhD is never called as a fellowship. It comes under the job, okay? Because you will be signing as a young researcher. So always, whenever you are looking for a PhD position, look for jobs in the EuroAccess portal. So that is much more easy. So I come back now. We had talked about the individuals. Now, organizations. How the individuals are part of it, because basically the consortia who advertise this particular post, the doctoral candidate, they recruit on their payroll. It is the recruitment for 36 months, and you can have a joint PhD or multiple PhD depending on the consortia formation. any nationality is applicable. So Indians are doing fantastically well. There is a mobility rule that you must not have resided or carried out any main activity of the country where you are going to recruit for more than 12 months in last 36 months. For simplicity, if you had done a master's in France, you cannot, in last 36 months, you cannot apply again PhD position in. They wanted to go out of France. That is what the multiple mobility across the continents is encouraged. So what type of documents normally these advertisements ask? That is the proof of your relevant master degree, transcript, CV, which also gives the reflection that you are having a research capacity and capability to conduct the work. So publications also, if you have any publications, report that, please mention into that. Your personal statement, that is letter of motivation, carries a lot of weight. You spend sufficient time to prepare that document. Then again, you will be asked for reference and recommendations later. And if required, some consortia ask language certification. Just to clarify that all the PhDs in Europe are in English, the scientific PhDs. So it is handsomely paid. If you see one of the best paid PhD program in the world, you will have 3,400 euros as a monthly allowance, plus mobility allowance of 600. If you are married, then you will have a 660 euros additional family allowance, plus the research institute, which is going to recruit you, they get 1,600 for your research training contribution, and management also 1,200. So on an average, something 7,000 euros per month, the European Commission provides a scholarship to one PhD candidate. So it is a huge investment from the European Commission side to form a new generation of researchers. So these are the tips. Again, I will not go into the details, but make sure, because I mentioned this is a multidisciplinary approach, because you need to decide which type of research you want to carry out, and you take your time, which specialization, because that will be your bread and butter for next 20, 30 years. So spend your time to choose which discipline you want to go for it. Also, whenever any application for a PhD position you come across, study the lab, what are the areas they are working in, what kind of a research they are conducting in, whether it is compatible to your thing. Again, apply for 2-3 PhD positions because it's very competitive. So you can also give a try to another calls. So your program also is very important to decide whether you want to do only lab research or research on field, because you will have all sort of combinations and research projects which will be required. So think before you apply. You need a lot of time to prepare these applications. So don't take it casually. Make sure you have only 36 months to complete your PhD. So make sure you are fully prepared to do a PhD in Europe. So as I mentioned, all the PhD advertisements are published on the EURACSIS website, as well as the Marie Curie action that is under the job funding portal. So these are just an example. I just, before the presentation, I just scrolled down the EURACSIS website right now under the Horizon 2020, because still the program funding is going on. So right now, only for Marie Curie ITN, that is Initial Innovation Training Network Program, there are 58 positions available right now open for this in different disciplines. So you can go through there. The consortium had given all information, what type of subject. So you don't have to choose the subject or the problem. The problem is already defined. So you just need all the skills or the discipline, master disciplines, whether you are able to answer those, qualify for those projects. So I will not spend more time, but I saw already some questions on postdoctoral fellowship. So I will just quickly go through. There are two types of postdoctoral fellowship, and most relevant action under the postdoctoral fellowship is European postdoctoral fellowship, under which the Indian researchers can go from India to Europe to conduct postdoc for a maximum of 2 years, that is 24 months. So the next call for 2022 will be announced in 13th April 2022. The deadline will be 14th September. Again, you will be able to apply across Europe, that is 27 plus 18 countries, to start looking at the potential host institute. If you are all successful, the entire process, you will be recruited in April, September 2023. So these are the important website which we will be sharing with you. I think I will stop it here. If you have any questions, any queries, please write to us. We will be more than happy to help you out. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Vivek ji, for giving a very great overview about the doctoral networks, the PhD opportunities which are there under Horizon Europe for Indian students. And we have some questions, but I would suggest we take them after Anvesh Bhattacharya's presentation, who is actually an Msc Doctoral Fellow. And I'm very happy to welcome Anvesh to the session. And Anvesh, you cracked it. You got the Msca Doctoral Fellowship, and please share a bit with the audience about your experience, how it is to become a doctoral fellow, what was your path to it, and how do you experience your time as an Msca Doctoral Fellow? Thank you. You're muted, Anvesh.
Yes, sorry for the technical glitch. But thank you very much for the opportunity to speak here. And everyone before me, Tanya and Vivek, they have given a strong overview and a lot of details about the program. And so I would like to detail my journey to do this, do a doctoral project as part of the Marie Sklodowska-Curie actions, and also take you through some of the beautiful things that happen when you are a Marie Curie Fellow, and the possibilities that await you. And I'm very glad to be speaking to prospective young researchers like me and students who would like to come to Europe. And the key message is basically that this is a very interesting opportunity, and the path to it is not very straightforward. But there are people waiting to help you, and beyond, you have really wonders. I mean, it's a phenomenal experience. So, I mean, as you can see in the picture, I work in a lab which is called the Institut Langevin, which is in Paris. And so this building was the same building where Marie Curie, in fact, worked for 4 years and isolated radium after 4 years of working. And I'm very fortunate to be working in the same building. So I was inspired by Curie when I was in high school in India, and right now it's serendipity that I'm funded by the Marie Curie actions. So this is so before I tell you about my journey from India to Europe, I just wanted to show this image. I mean, this is the most pressing challenge, I think, that faces humanity. So our world is accelerating in global warming, and so we are getting very hot very quickly. So just because a lot of people are listening, and I hope that there are people who would work on mitigating global warming in the next few years. So I hail from an Eastern Indian town in West Bengal called Kharagpur. It's famous for having the first Indian Institute of Technology and railway workshops. So I went to the Indian Institute of Science Education and Research in Pune for my undergraduate education, where I did my bachelor's and master's for 5 years, specializing in physics. And till before my 4th year of undergraduate studies, I had never been anywhere outside India. So thanks to the DST Inspire Fellowship, which is given by the Science and Technology Department of India and the Atomic Energy Department's NIUS Fellowship, I was able to carry out interesting research in top-notch labs in India. which then allowed me to travel to Paris to carry out my master's thesis research at the École Normale Supérieure on a Charpak Fellowship. So this is given by the French government to Indian students. So this is not a focus of today's presentation, but there are many such opportunities which people can make use of. And then finally, after I came to Paris, I did my master's research in optics. I work on light matter interaction, and I applied to a Marie Curie co-fund program, which is known as Up to Paris, as you can see here. So in Up to Paris, I will detail about the application process a bit later. So my project in very simple terms is I'm trying to extend human vision. So we cannot see more than 7 colors. We can see violet to red. And so in the infrared, we can see heat. So I am trying to develop cameras that can look at heat through obstacles. So our program, the Up to Paris program, is basically a co-fund program. So as you have seen in the previous presentations, co-fund is basically a program where the Marie Curie, the European Commission, gives a substantial part of the funds for the doctoral program, and it is matched by industrial or institutional partners. So as you can see in this image, in our program there are 30 fellows, and from 17 different countries, and 10 of them are from India. So what Vivek was just saying, that I mean, there are really a lot of Indians. So 1/3 of fellows in our Marie Curie program are from India. So it's a great sign. And I think for students and researchers who are planning to come to Europe, your ability to succeed is exceptional. And so I work in an institute which is called ESPCI, the École Supérieure, so the Superior School of Physics and Industrial Chemistry. This is a place where a lot of new science and new technologies were developed, like the sonar. Marie Curie worked here with Pierre Curie. They discovered radioactivity, radium, and polonium. And so these are in France. Basically, these are part of the larger ecosystem of engineering and science schools, a bit like the IITs and ISERs in India. And one of the focus in so the research, why the research here is quite interesting is because there are like very talented students from all over the world. And like Vivek mentioned, really there is no limit to nationality, except the fact that you have to only live at most 1 year before joining or applying for your PhD. So this is something that needs to be kept in mind. But if you're in India, I think it's, and you're applying for the next year, I think it makes sense that you already satisfy this criteria. And so basically there are 3 key pillars of our doctoral program. And I think a lot of co-fund programs also are based on the same model. So these are international. So international students and young researchers, they are selected and they do a 3-year or PhD project. All of these PhD projects are very innovative, at the cutting edge of research globally. And they are interdisciplinary. So this is something that is very, very useful for future science and current science, how it works. So for example, if you're working in cancer, you don't just need biology knowledge, you also need knowledge in chemistry. For example, I have some knowledge in physics and some knowledge in chemistry. So this is exceptional that you can come here with from diverse backgrounds. So in my project, for example, in my program, there are people from engineering backgrounds, from physics backgrounds, chemistry backgrounds, pharmacy backgrounds. So really, I mean, it allows people. So it allows people from very different backgrounds to do interesting research projects. And I think the only limit is your imagination. So for example, I mean, when you're looking at projects, I will tell you where you can look at Marie Curie projects to apply to. But when you're looking at a project, I suggest that you just somehow see how you are able to relate to the project. So let's say there's a project that is not really related to the work that you have been doing in your master's or in your undergrad. But if there are some skills that you seem are very relevant, So I would say you can think of applying to these sort of projects, because the goal of a PhD is not just to carry on in one narrow discipline and keep on going in the same academic trajectory. In the current world, we need to all work towards solving challenges that require diverse skills. And so if we can use our skills to work on a project that is not entirely known to us, so it allows us to learn something and also contribute our skills in solving some problems. And there's also, of course, basic research, which is also part of the Marie Curie actions. And the third factor, beyond international and interdisciplinary, is intersectorial. So what this means is that there is a lot of academia industry crosstalk. So not just the institute, me included and all of our fellows who I know, they don't just work on projects that are funded by academia and have a academic relevance, but they also have some relevance to social problems or to industrial problems that need to be solved in the very short to medium term. And so this dialogue between academia and industry is, I think, something that in India is just starting up. So to be able to come here and see how this sort of research is done is a phenomenal experience. And so to summarize, sort of, I mean, the first thing is that the Marie Curie Fellowship allows you to come to some of the best research institutes in Europe. So it allows mobility and to work on innovative research projects, which are typically at the cutting edge of research happening across the world. And as I mentioned, these are interdisciplinary research projects on some of the key topics that plague our scientific knowledge at this time. And the fellowship is very prestigious, so it gives a lot of recognition, and which also develops a lot of professional networks. So not just in your research institute, or let's say for me in Paris, but I have also been able to access the resources and the networks of the Marie Curie Alumni Association, which is spread across the world. And there are really, I mean, a whole host of opportunities that wait for you. And when I was in India, I really had not imagined that I would be able to meet so many different kinds of people, to be able to do so many different things. And this is this is an experience that the Marie Curie Fellowship gives you. And this is sort of the charm, I would say, other than the research itself. These are some of the things that will really help you grow as a young researcher, as a young professional in science and also social sciences, as Vivek mentioned. And in my program, for example, there is holistic training. So there are some soft skills, professional development courses, language courses. Like if you're in France, if you're in Germany, you speak the language. And I have also been involved in doing a lot of interplay between science and society. For example, working on gender diversity in our institute at ESPCI, on science communication. In fact, this week I am in Berlin because I came to pitch at the Falling Walls Lab, where innovative science ideas are communicated in a very general fashion. And so these are some of the other benefits other than the science that you get, and really there is no price to it. I mean, this is priceless. And in addition to this, living and working in Europe for me in France is very different and also very enriching compared to India. Of course, in India also we follow a very nice model, but when you come here, you have a diversity of perspectives because there are people from different backgrounds, and you integrate into a new country. You also learn to live in a new country by yourself, which is, I think, a great experience to have. You make research collaborations, interpersonal bonds, and you also travel. So I've written travel here 3 times. So the first thing is that the fellowship allows you to travel from, let's say in our case, India, to come to Europe and work on a project and meet interesting people. It also allows you to travel inside Europe. I mean, Europe is very beautiful. There are beautiful countries, beautiful landscape, snow, mountain, sea. And so you get the opportunity to explore this continent over, let's say, 3 or 4 years of your short next career in science and social sciences. And also the last travel is basically, I think one of the key aims of the Marie Curie actions is not just to train researchers of the future, but to allow these researchers to go back to their own communities, to their own countries, and develop science and develop societal responsibilities when you go there. So I mean, look at these as sort of a launching pad and a place where you go to gain knowledge, to have all these diverse perspectives, and to give back to your own country or even elsewhere, anywhere across the world, to really nurture communities that can help humanity grow. And so just to quickly give you, a flavor of the research process. So the research process is not easy at all. Even though, having done it, I would say it is not, you can do it, but it requires a lot of tenacity. And so, so as a lot of people, they mentioned before, so the Euraccess portal is, I think, a one-stop solution where you can find these Marie Curie projects. And I would also suggest you to subscribe to their newsletter and flash notes, which I think they send, I'm not sure, every week or every fortnight. And so you really get these updates about new projects in different disciplines. And so the key thing is to start early. So let's say you want to start your PhD in fall 2022, so next September. So you should start making a list. So first, of course, if you're a master's student or looking towards doing a PhD, so the first question is, do you want to do a PhD? So a PhD is basically not just a commitment for 3 years, but you are basically contributing towards advancing human knowledge. So you're making a small tiny dent in our collective human knowledge. And this is, this is one of the most fulfilling things, but it also requires a lot of perseverance and hard work. And so if you are prepared for this, then what you do is you have to see what kind of, so you go to the Euraccess portal, or you also look up different universities, researchers in your field. And this you can do, for example, by going to Google Scholar and seeing who are the leading researchers with publications in your field. And then you see if their research interests align with yours or not. And then I would say, immediately after you find some sort of a match, and this does not have to be 100% match. Your skills are, in your PhD, you are not meant to be a machine who has some skills, who works and who finishes a project. You are there to also learn new skills, to work on new ideas. And so if there is some overlap, I would say really write to researchers, and researchers are busy. So, expecting them to reply at once is not a very very fair opinion of them, because, for example, they may miss your email. But the key thing is to be persistent. So keep sending reminders, and also write to different professors and different groups. And there are also a lot of calls, but beyond calls, you can also write to groups. And usually in Europe, in US, for example, you have a very structured application process. In Europe, you usually write to groups, and after you have had some exchange with them, they suggest you to apply to programs. Or if you're applying for a Marie Curie program, there will be some structure. But even then, it would be really useful to write an email to a researcher. So, for example, in the background, it is my email that I wrote to my current PhD supervisor, essentially highlighting what my research background was and what I was interested in, and also telling them why I was interested in the research project that was offered. So once you show that there is this alignment, it becomes easy for them to also see if they would like to ask you to apply for the project. And so you sent, you prepare CVs and these sort of things that Vivek mentioned earlier. And really, this is not a one-day thing. You have to spend months working on this. But the key thing is to be persistent and to also be determined and to be smart about how you do things. And if you, if anyone needs any help with these sort of things, feel free contact me. And so in summary, I think the Marie Curie fellowships are basically a way that Europe funds and is trying to make researchers of the future. And as researchers of the future, we are many small people who, in many small people, can do many small things that can alter the face of the world. And so thank you very much. And I hope that you have learned something, and over the entire afternoon, you will have some new knowledge that will allow you to apply and be successful. And feel free to contact me. I have written my email address, so drop me an email and we can discuss if you want to know something more. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Anvesh. And I really like the last slide of yours. And I think the person with the red umbrella is you, right? Looking
yeah,
at them, yeah. Okay. Yeah. No, but fantastic. Really, a great testimonial about what it means to be an MSc, a doctoral fellow. You know, and you are in doing your research in the same building as Marie Curie, after who the program has been named. So that's of course an amazing coincidence, and we're very happy that you came in and gave a taste, a real taste of what it means to get a PhD in Europe under the Marie Curie. Thank you so much. We're running a bit late in time, but I really feel if we can just take one or two questions, because I think it would be just nice, to have also a bit of interaction with the audience. So I just please excuse the speakers who are following now, that we just take a couple of minutes. And I take questions to both of you, Vivek and Anvesh. So Vivek, one of the questions which we got also in the past always is like, what if someone is already enrolled in a PhD program in India, can he or she still apply for a Marie Curie PhD?
No, actually, if you are applied in India, you can either do it or you have to quit the PhD from India and you have to separately, freshly start in Europe. So there is no sandwich PhD as such, because it is a full-time at a European lab.
Okay, great.
Another question. Something to this?
Sure.
I mean, if you don't want to leave your PhD in India, there are some programs, like, for example, I know in Germany and France, where there are fellowships given for short-term visits of about 1 year. Yeah. And so these can be made use of.
Yeah, exactly. Like, as you mentioned, like in France, they have this, sandwich programs or short-term visits for PhD candidates. Another question, I think, Anvesh, maybe would know better, is the interview process for a PhD, how different is it from India and Europe? Like,
right. So, so in the Marie Curie, for Marie Curie doctoral fellowships, there's a two-stage process. So the first stage, there's an application where you basically detail your motivation, your academic background, and so it's about 10 pages of applications. It's not very complicated, but it takes some time. And so once this is sent, there's an eligibility check, and there's a first level screening. And then there is an interview, and the interview is not like a panel which asks you basic science, or in other disciplines, I think they will ask you questions about other disciplines. It's not like that. So you are invited to do a short presentation of about 25 to 30 minutes. And so you detail your academic background and the research that you have been able to do. So I have more or less knowledge about the sciences. So it will be biased. I'm not really sure what they do in social sciences, but in sciences, at least, you are invited to present an interview for half an hour, where the most important thing is that you show that you are motivated for the research project that you're applying to. So the interview process is different because your fundamental or your basic science knowledge is not tested. That has already been seen. If you're coming from a good academic institution, if you have written this application, it's already, they know you are quite well, but the motivation is something that they really see. And there's also a lab visit in some cases. So for me, I was shown around the lab, and there was some interaction with the teams that I would be working on. And so it's like 1 day of interviews. And then I think within a month, they tell you if you are selected or not.
Great. One more question, I think, to Vivek. what about if one has less research experience and more teaching experience and wants to apply for a Marie Curie PhD? Is that a disadvantage or?
It all depends what kind of a candidate the consortia or the lab is looking for. That is you, how you present and project and sell yourself as a potential candidate. So as far as if you have a strong research background, that adds the value to your CV, because they want a candidate who can start from day one. There is no time for hand holding. So that is what they are looking for, a candidate who can independently start working as early as possible. So I don't think so it will be advantage or disadvantage. Is how do you project yourself as a potential candidate to the project position.
Okay, great. Thank you so much to both of you. Please stay on. We have now another very interesting presentation following, which is, we are staying with the MSCA. And as Tanya and Vivek mentioned already in the beginning of their presentations, that under the MSCA, we not only have the PhD postdoc fellowships, but we also have something which is known as the Staff Exchange Program, which allows international cooperation on a staff level. And there's an opportunity for Indian entities to participate with European partners. And I'm very happy to welcome dear colleague from Brussels, Marleen Barth. She's a policy officer at the Msc Doctoral Curie Actions Unit at the DG Education, Youth, Sport and Culture at the European Commission in Brussels. So good morning to you, Marleen, and please, sorry for that we are a bit delayed, but I think it was a very, a very good testimonial from Anvesh, and it served the purpose that we are slightly delayed with your presentation.
No problem at all. I completely agree. I think it was a very inspiring talk. Thank you, Anvesh. We always like to have testimonials, which I think are much more inspiring than some policy officer sitting in Brussels and working for the European Commission. So thanks for having me. I'm going to try to briefly introduce you to one of the main actions of the MSCA, which is the staff exchange one. You've heard now about doctoral networks. And co-fund, actually, since Anvesh was recruited through a co-fund project. Here you just have a different representation of basically what was said earlier on. So the 5 main MSCA actions under Horizon Europe. So for those of you who have participated in the previous Horizon 2020 program, you will see that the main actions are still there. We didn't change too much. We were favoring a continuity from the change from Horizon 2020 to now Horizon Europe. But we did do some little rebranding and retweaking here and there. So you can see that, for example, the names of the different actions have changed. I will be focusing on staff exchanges, which used to be called RISE, Research and Innovation Staff Exchanges in the past. So if you see RISE here and there, it's the same thing basically, but there are some tiny changes here and there. The other actions, I'm not gonna go into detail since this is not the purpose now, but you've heard a little bit about doctoral networks and co-fund. So doctoral networks, co-fund and staff exchanges are addressing more organizations, institutions involved in research and innovation, academic or non-academic. So there it's more institutions applying, whereas for postdoctoral fellowships, here it's more individual researchers applying together with a host institution. And then as Anvesh also and Vivek just explained, if you are interested in doing a PhD through one of our programs, then you apply through the Euraccess, for example, portal, or you can find all the listings on Euraccess and you apply directly to the consortium. So you don't apply to us at the European Commission or to the Research Executive Agency. Now, staff exchanges is a bit different from the other MSCA actions because we fund not only researchers, but any staff involved in research and innovation activities. Here, maybe it's a little bit more telling if I show you an example. So this is an example involving an Indian organization called Ecobotics C, which is the acronym, the abbreviation for Bio-Inspired Technologies for a Sustainable Marine Ecosystem. You can see that this is an international project that uses, basically combines robotics to monitor marine species communities, so focusing a lot on ecosystem preservation and biodiversity. The coordinator is European, so in Portugal. There are 5 beneficiaries in Europe in total, so from Portugal, Spain, Germany, and Estonia, including also non-academic partners. So we do have some private organizations in there as well. And then 1 third country partner from India, which is the National Institute of Oceanography. And all these organizations, they have applied for an MSCA staff exchange, or RISE, because it was a 2018 project. They got funding, approximately €500,000, to exchange staff amongst themselves, amongst the organizations, also to organize some summer schools, workshops, conferences, etc., all focusing on this specific topic. And it's very interdisciplinary, because as you can see, there's robotics, but there's also biology, etc., etc. So this is just to give you a little bit an example of what staff exchanges actually fund. Now, if we go a little bit more into the detail of the action, staff exchanges, like the other Marie Curie actions, is also bottom up. So bottom up means that we cover all scientific fields. It was mentioned previously by Vivek. So we do cover, for example, life sciences, obviously, physics, mathematics, chemistry, but also social sciences, humanities, economic sciences, etc. So really, it's the excellence of the proposal that will matter, and not the topic per se, or the scientific field, as we cover all of them. Also, like the other MSCA actions, we have this, what we call the triple I, so international, intersectoral, interdisciplinary. This is important and relevant for all of our actions. International meaning Europe and outside Europe, okay? So not necessarily only between European countries. And this is particularly relevant for staff exchanges, which is actually the most international of our actions under the MSCA, so with the most third countries partners involved. And as was also said earlier, congratulations, because India is actually one of our most international or most represented countries in the MSCA in terms of number of participants, so individual researchers. So congratulations to you. Interdisciplinary means between different disciplines, of course, and intersectoral, so between the academic and the non-academic sector. So it is true that often people think that the MSCA fund only research organizations or only higher education institutions, universities. This is not the case. If you are a business, an SME, an industry partner, an NGO, etc., you are also eligible to participate in our actions, and very much encouraged to do so. Of course, what we're trying to aim for is knowledge transfer between participating organizations. So the goal is really to cooperate and expand your networks between the different sectors, academic and non-academic, and then across the globe. For staff exchanges, although this is very similar as well to the other MSCA actions, a little bit here, the added value, what is the, I think Anwesh also very much presented it, but what is the added value of participating in such projects, either for the staff or the organizations? Of course, for individual staff members, it's, increased skills, new skills, transferable skills, such as communication, teamwork, problem solving, etc., but also competences, very concrete competences. It is also a very strong international exposure, as I said, because you will be traveling around, you will be meeting new people, new partners, so you will be exposed internationally. All of this should hopefully lead to enhanced employability and career prospects. You will have a lot of networking and communication opportunities. And I think what's also very rewarding is to see your ideas converted into concrete products, processes, or services. And then for the organizations, I think here again, the added value is quite obvious. First of all, you will be able to cooperate and to transfer knowledge across different sectors and across different disciplines. You will be able to expand your networks to go beyond, to go more international. And of course, this should boost your research and innovation capacity also, because you will be working together with a lot of different experts from different partner organizations. Consortium composition. So this is important. Tanya mentioned it earlier. I said it again. So it can be academic and non-academic. Organizations from any sector of those sectors are welcome to participate. The application has to be submitted by a consortium of minimum 3 legal entities in 3 different countries. And out of these 2 minimum countries need to be an EU member state or Horizon Europe associated country. You have seen the list earlier, so the 27 member states and then the Horizon Europe associated countries. So that's for the minimum. Then on top of that, any organization in Europe or outside Europe can join the consortium. Of course, the size should remain manageable, but we've seen any possible sizes. So usually what we like to see is maybe 6 to 8, 10 partners, but there are projects where you have over 20, sometimes 30 partners involved as well. So of course it depends, if every partner is relevant or not, which is up to the consortium to decide. Here, you see it in the footnote, it's a little bit less relevant for India. This is more for your European partners. So we are very much trying to encourage cross-sectoral cooperation, so between academia and non-academia, meaning that we're limiting same sector exchanges in Europe. This is not the case for cooperation with India, where it could be in the same sector without problem, but within Europe, if a university wants to cooperate with another university, we're trying to limit the amount that this can be spent on this, and also it will have to be interdisciplinary. So if it's in the same sector, it at least has to be between different disciplines. And then it is limited to 1/3 of the total implemented months. But I can come back to that later in the questions if you have any on this. For the eligibility for funding, Tanya also mentioned this earlier. This is very important, especially for you if you're located in India. So as was said earlier, participants from non-associated countries or non-EU countries are eligible to participate in our project, not always with funding. Okay, so to be automatically eligible for funding, you have to be included in the list where I give the link at the bottom of the slide. So either you are an EU member state or you are located in an EU member state, a Horizon Europe associated country, or low to middle income countries that are on this list. So India is not part of this list, meaning that participants from India will have to bring their own funding to the project. I mean, there are a few exceptions, of course. Tanya mentioned it as well. I mean, if you have, a clear added value for the project, or really like you are state of the art, or some labs that are only located in India, then of course there could be exceptions. But otherwise, we would expect you to bring in some funding as well. It could be your own institutional funding, so from your organization, but it could also be some regional or national funding. So we see it, for example, in Canada, the government is making funding available for Canadian participants to participate in our projects. Who or what do we fund? So as I said, staff exchanges, well, the name actually says it, it's about the exchange or secondment of staff, and it goes beyond only researchers, okay? So it can be researchers at any stages of their career. So it could be PhD or postdoc. It could also be administrative staff, managerial staff, or technical staff. So that's one of the main differences with the other MSCA actions, is that we go beyond only researchers. However, whoever goes, I mean, be it a researcher or administrative staff, this person needs to be engaged in research and innovation activities for at least 1 month at the sending institution. So for example, I mean, if you are an accountant, maybe you would not be eligible. So you have to be really involved in the R&I activities. The duration of the secondment is 1 to 12 months per staff member. This can be split, so you could go 1 month and then 3 months and then 1 month again, but up to 12 months per staff member. Another important thing is that while you go on the secondment, you or the staff member should be full-time working on the project. So please avoid any part-time. And after the secondment, the staff should return to the sending institution to be able to bring back the knowledge and disseminate the knowledge gained during the secondment. Here it's an overview table about the eligibility of the exchanges. It can look a little bit confusing. I think that the slides might be shared later on, so you can spend a little bit more time on it. But basically what's important for you to know is that exchanges between third countries. So let's imagine you are involved in a project. So India is involved and there would be Japan as well. That's not possible. So you would not be able to host or send staff with Japan. However, so the flow always has to go through Europe, let's say, or from Europe. Also good for you to know is that we, even though India is not automatically eligible for funding, we will cover all the costs associated to, for example, a staff member going from Europe to India. And this is a little bit to give you an idea of what the funding looks like. So we are talking of, or we are using a unit cost system, meaning that we give, a round contribution, which we call a person month. Okay, so 1 unit is 1 person month, which would cover basically the secondment of 1 staff for 1 month. And then you can see how the budget is split. So in purplish at the top, that's the top-up allowance or the staff member unit cost. So that's the money that goes to the staff member. So let's imagine, I don't know, French researcher that will go to your organizations in India. He will receive 2,300 euros to cover his accommodation, his travel and subsistence cost. And then the organization will also, for this individual researcher, receive 1,300 plus 1,000 euros to cover anything related to the research, training and networking activities, or also for the management of the project itself. So for example, personal costs. And so all this together, that's 1 unit or 1 person month. And if we look at the next slide, this is just a summary of basically what a project looks like. So in terms of duration, we're talking of a 4-year project. So you as a consortium, I mean, if you apply as part of a consortium, your project will last for 4 years. The maximum amount that you can get is 360 person months per project. So the person months is the 4,600 euros I just explained. So you can have this times 360 max per project. And then you have to see how this is split in the consortium. And you have to, of course, spend it over the 4 years of the project. The secondments, as I said, are 1 to 12 months. So that's for the individual staff member. The unit cost I just explained. And then the total budget is just for you to have an idea. So for the call that is currently open in 2021, we have allocated 72.5 million euros for staff exchanges. So to fund a number of projects, usually the projects, 1 single project will be anything between 500,000 to 1 million euros, more or less. I mean, if you remember the example I showed in the beginning, it was a €500,000 project. how do you apply everything, all of our calls actually? So this is not only for staff exchanges, but it's for any of the MSCA calls, and actually also not only the MSCA, but all Horizon Europe, and I think now also Erasmus+. Everything is streamlined on the funding and tenders opportunities portal. So you have the link here. You can also just type it on Google or a search engine. So funding and tender opportunities portal, and then you can look for keywords. So for example, MSCA staff exchanges. Once you see your call, you will see, you know, the deadlines, whether it is open or not, also all the documents. So you have to sign in, and then the consortium applies. I mean, you as Indian organization, you are what we call an associated partner in staff exchanges, meaning, so yeah, I should have said that maybe earlier. So we have beneficiaries. Beneficiaries are organizations located in Europe or in a Horizon Europe associated countries. They sign the grant agreement. And then if you're an organization outside an EU member state or associated countries, you're a so-called associated partner, meaning that you still participate in the project, but you don't have to sign the grant agreement. But what you will sign is basically a partnership agreement with the other members of your consortium to make sure that you all agree on the division of tasks and responsibilities. And then usually, even though it's a consortium, there will be one coordinator. So one of the European beneficiaries is what we then call a coordinator, and he will be the final responsible for the implementation of the project, the communication with the partners, the submission of the application form, etc. Here on the funding and tenders portal, very important. I mean, if you're interested in what we're saying, not only the staff exchanges, but also the rest, but you're still a bit confused, I would encourage you to go to the funding and tenders portal and to have a look at the documents. I mean, there's a whole section with documents. The most important one at this stage I would recommend to read is the work program. So the MSCA work program, and they're the relevant parts. So if you're interested in doctoral networks, you can read that section. If you're interested in staff exchanges, you read that. And then I would also encourage you to look at the guide for applicants, which is a little bit more down to earth, digestible, explained. So with a few definitions, because sometimes it can be a bit overwhelming and confusing, especially in terms of terminology, etc. So really have a look at all the documents before deciding whether or not you're interested in participating in one of our projects. Also, what's very interesting and useful usually is the frequently asked questions. They're also available on the funding and tenders portal. And then once it's time, I mean, once you've decided that you're interested, or when you've been approached by one of your, members of your networks, etc., to participate in such a project, you will be asked, of course, to contribute to the application form. So you should make sure to send to the coordinator all the relevant information that is needed for a successful application, which will then be uploaded also on the funding and tender opportunities portal. And the assessment happens based on these three evaluation criteria. They're similar across the MSCA actions. Excellence, of course, you can see 50%. That's why we're also in the excellence pillar of Horizon Europe. So really what is the most important is the excellence of your project. How innovative are you? How state-of-the-art, how beyond state-of-the-art are you going? So there's a big focus on that. And then of course on the impact, because it's also about, disseminating your knowledge, sharing, reaching out. So, the impact and the impact on the individual staff member, of course, very important. And then the implementation of your project, who is doing what, how are they doing it, are there any possible risks, how will these risks be mitigated, etc. So make sure to address all of these things in your contribution to the application form. Here, just to remind you of the dates. So the call is currently open for staff exchanges. It opened on the 7th of October and it will be running until the 9th of March. So you still have a few months. However, don't worry if you think that this is too tight. There will be a call also in 2022, 2023, etc. And we already have the dates actually for 2022. So that will be in October next next year. So if you're missing the bus at this time, don't worry, there will be one next year as well. And this is just for some background. There's the links in the presentations. This is maybe a little bit less relevant for staff exchanges, but very relevant for doctoral networks, for instance, or co-fund. So we have developed some guidelines, for example, guidelines on supervision, but also what we call the Msca Green Charter. So here, basically all projects, all future projects, or all applicants are encouraged to follow the principles that are in this document. It's a very short document, pretty straightforward, and it's kind of it's our way of trying to push projects to minimize the environmental impact of their research activities. So there's some very simple guidelines like reuse, recycle, reduce, or minimize or favorize low emission types of transport, use teleconferencing, ensure sustainability of project events, etc. And actually, if you go to the website, I mean, you have the document, but we also have, you have the charter, but we also have a compilation of guidance material with very concrete examples of how to do certain of the things we advise you to. So please keep this in mind also when drafting your application for staff exchanges or any of the MSCA actions. And I think that's it from my side. Here are some links to the website, the Alumni Association. I think you heard from Anvesh how useful it can be to get in touch with previous beneficiaries for all the tips and tricks and concrete advice. So don't hesitate to go and contact also the Marie Curie Alumni Association. And yeah, that's it from my side. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Marlene, for a very excellent presentation on, I think, a great program. And there's so much possibilities for interaction between Indian organizations and Europeans. And I think you really showed the exact pathway, how one should go about it. And the call is still open, as Marlene said, so there is still time. And if you are interested, please, try to find suitable institutions, partners who would be willing to apply for it. Marlene, just a couple of questions. There are some questions in the Q&A, so if you have the time, it would be great. Sure. There are some specific questions to go into them, but I wanted to ask you one question just to, I think you already mentioned it, but just for our audience to remind them, it can involve non-academic staff and it's open to all scientific disciplines, right?
Exactly. Yeah. We're bottom up, so we cover all scientific fields. And indeed, non-academic participation is strongly encouraged, and actually RISE or staff exchanges amongst all our MSCA actions is the one that involve the most non-academic partners as well. So we do have a lot of small to medium enterprises, businesses, industry representatives, NGOs, etc. So yeah, of course it's open. It's quite broad.
And in terms of output, like what would be the expected output? Is there like a report to be submitted at the end of the project to the commission?
Yes.
Like what does the commission expect from this staff exchange?
There's always reporting as for any EU funding. So I fear you will have to spend some time on reporting, and then it's also more in your application, you will have to provide some concrete work packages and deliverables. And then of course, throughout your project, you will have to report on where you are with these work packages or deliverables, whether you are able to meet them or not. So it also depends very much on the individual projects and research outputs that you have put in the application form, but there will be some reporting involved, yes.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much, Marlene. And thank you if you can go into those questions and see if there are some specific to address towards you in the Q&A. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm in the Q&A. So
you could just type them, and in the meantime, we'll move to our next presentation. Yeah. If that's okay for you.
Perfect. Yeah, no problem.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So much.
Bye.
And now we from Brussels we move to Hungary, and actually we are having Dr. Hilda Farkas with us, who is the Counselor for Science and Technology at the Hungarian Embassy. And Hilda will tell us today about the research and study opportunities in Hungary. She's actually right now, you are in Delhi, right, Hilda?
Yes, Samrat, thank you very much. I am here in Delhi. So, did I share the presentation? Can you see it now?
No, you have to still open that. We can see your screen.
So I will start again. Yes. Maybe now. So it's not the case. Nothing.
We just see your screen. So would you like me to run it for you?
Yeah, please, please, please. I do not like to spend more time on that.
Yes, of course. I'm just looking for you here. Okay. Okay, I will just run it now. I hope it will work quickly with mine. Sorry. Can you see it, Hilda? And
yeah, please, please. This is perfect. Thank you very much. So
okay.
Thank you very much, first of all, to you inviting me to this very good event. And I'm very delighted to share some information with you about Hungarian-Indian education and research development cooperation. And hopefully, after the presentation, you will see that how much we can do together, and I hope that you will get spirit a little bit about the Hungarian environment. So my name is Hilda Farkas. I am Counselor on Science and Technology at the Hungarian Embassy here in New Delhi. And so the problem is that I cannot see the presentation, but anyway, Samrat, can you move on please to the next slide?
We are now at slide number 2, why Hungary?
Yeah, okay, because I cannot see the, yeah, now I can see the screen. So you can ask yourself, well, why I have to go to Hungary? I think that the answer is very simple, because don't forget that Hungary is as one of the European Union country will ensure for you the European degree, which has a very good value on the global job market. And Hungary is also developing a very good hub of innovation. A lot of international companies are working together with different universities and research institutes. So you can join to this hub if you wish. And the next one is that the living cost and living expenses are very low, and also the tuition fees. So this is also an economic value for you going to Hungary. Hungary is the third most popular Erasmus destination for the Indian students. So that means that Indian students like Hungary very much. And don't forget that these students will get a very friendly environment, warm welcoming, and very good cultural environment. Next one, please. So just coming to the educational exchange possibilities what we offer to Indian students, I have to mention that the framework of this program is our cultural agreement, which was signed in 1962. And under this cultural agreement, we concluded the educational exchange program, And the main element of this program is that the Hungarian government offers every year 200 seat places for Indian students within the framework of the Stipendium Hungaricum scholarship program, which are available for bachelor, master, and PhD students. In parallel, Government of India also offers a certified scholarship program for the Hungarian students. Next, please. So just have a look to our top universities. I have to say that we have a lot of very old traditional historical universities. The oldest one in Hungary is more than 600 years old. Among them, I put on the screen the most important universities. Eötvös Loránd University, University of Szeged, University of Debrecen, and University of Pécs, which are presenting let's say, the classical research universities. But for example, Budapest University of Technology and Economy, it's more professional in the engineering and technological sciences. It is very similar like IITs here in India. Corvinus University is more professional in economic and trade. And the Szent István University is more focused on the agriculture and life sciences. Next one, please. According to our research and innovation policy, you can see what kind of focus points Hungary established. We are focusing on megatrends, and of course, we would like to have solutions for the community, for the Hungarian community, and also solutions for the Hungarian economy. So next, please. And coming to the concrete proposals, please have a look to that side when I summarize the mobility program for students, researchers, and postdocs. First of all, as many countries, Hungary also launched a Study in Hungary program, which aims to invite the international students to Hungary and provide them very high-level study programs. About 66 universities and colleges are the partners of this program, and they offer more than 550 study programs, mainly in English. I mean, 85% is performed in English, but if you wish, you can study in German language, in French, in Spanish, and many other languages are available. We follow the Bologna system, which means that we have 3-cycle degree system for bachelor's, master's, and PhD. Under the Study in Hungary program, we are running the scholarship, which we call it Stipendium Hungaricum program. This is government offer to the students, to the international students. More than 5,000 students can apply every year to Hungarian programs. Among them, as I mentioned, 200 scholarship is given to India, but we also gave it to Bangladesh, and now the new member is Maldives. So this scholarship program offers also 500 or more study courses on bachelor, master, and PhD level. And the scholarship covers the whole fee for full-time programs. But maybe if you wish, you can choose part-time programs. But I have to say that in India, the full-time programs are more popular. The application is open in every November. The last one is a part-time program under the bilateral scholarship agreement, which gives travel possibilities for researchers, postdocs, and also for PhD students. Next, please. Next, please. Samrat?
Yeah, I moved the slide to available study fields. You want me to move to the next?
Yeah. No. That's it. Thank you. So, as I mentioned, more than 500 courses are available on different levels, which means that almost all the possible academic fields are available for the students. But now I summarized the main academic fields where you can study. Among them, agricultural, computer science, legal science, engineering, arts, sports, natural sciences. So the list is very long. Next one, please. You have to consider that in India, scholarship program is very, very popular. So the last year, that was more than 2,000 applicants for that program. And here, just I summarized what are the most popular programs for Indian students according to the 2019-2020 applications. So you can see that mechanical engineering is the absolute winner, and computer science engineering, Master of Business Administration, computer science, mechatronical engineering, electrical engineering. So these are the most popular courses what Indian students choose when they are applying for the Stipendium Hungaricum scholarship program. Next one, please. And now I would like to give a picture of how many Indian students are studying in Hungary. On the top, you can see that the development is steady. So let's see, during 5 years, it was four more times that at the beginning. And the diagram shows that which is the most popular university in Hungary, which was chosen by the Indian students. So the high price is given to University of Debrecen. Debrecen is a middle-sized town, 200 to 220 kilometers from Budapest, from the capital, and they have a very good recruitment policy, and that's why they have a very, very good and very active Indian community at the university. And the next one is Eötvös Loránd University, located in Budapest, and University of Pécs, also very active, recruiting Indian students, and so on. Next, please. As I mentioned, that I'm under bilateral scholarship program, we offer short-term researchers and postdocs, and you can see how the number raise up year by year. So this is also very popular. I mean, became very popular at the last year. Next time, please. Next, please. I spoke about student and research mobility possibilities, but now we can come to the research programs, the bilateral research program. The legal basis of that program is the Intergovernmental Agreement between India and Hungary, which is a very old one because it was signed in 1992, aiming to give a budget for collaborative projects, which are focusing on market-oriented products and services. The good news is that it's not only a paper agreement, but behind of it, there is a common research fund, which ensures that this collaborative research project can take place. The partners of this program, Ministry of Science and Technology and National Research Development and Innovation Office in Hungary. And the duration of the project is 3 years. And the good news that the goal is every second year, and the next will be in December. So that's why I would like to advise you to check regularly the publication websites, which here in India available at International Cooperation Division of DST website, and also in Hungary, National Research Development and Innovation Office. The application should be developed by the Hungarian and Indian partners together, but both partners will send the application to their institutions. I mean, Indians to DST, Hungarians to the Hungarian Innovation Office, and after that, a common joint committee sits together and decides on the project. So on the other side, you can follow that how many projects have been granted during the years. So just a very, very small summary and very small example about the institutional cooperations. You can see that all of the Hungarian bigger universities have a lot of partners here in India. But believe me, this is a very, very small example. In my register, the all cooperational partners in the list takes 11 or more pages. So despite that Hungary is a small country, we have a very, very live and very, very much wide cooperation partnership. Next, please. So the organizer asked me to summarize the information about the upcoming course. So this is the slide where I made it. As I mentioned, the Stipendium Hungaricum Scholarship Program call will be published in 4 days. So don't forget to visit the website. The bilateral research program call will be published in December, and the bilateral scholarship program, which is open for researchers and postdocs, will be open in January. So just we are in very, very good time. I mean, you can prepare for that course. You can check the previous informations on the website, and please do planning to apply for any of them or all of them if you wish, and I wish you a very good success to get the positive results. And finally, I would like to remind you that Hungary is a member state of the European Union, and therefore we can offer not only the bilateral cooperation, but also the many of programs which offered by the European Union. Therefore, we are very happy to receive students from India in Erasmus program, Erasmus Plus, Erasmus Mundus, Marie Sklodowska-Curie Actions, European Research Council. So we are there. We can be a good partner for you. And hopefully, we also can be a partner in Horizon Europe collaborative projects, or maybe in the flagship projects. And we have a good hope that the Indian government will accept the funding mechanism for that, which makes the life more easy. So finally, I would like to thank you for your attention, and please don't hesitate to contact me if you have questions or any other request. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Hilda, for this very comprehensive overview about the opportunities for Indian students, researchers to come to Hungary under the different programs you have mentioned. And it's very timely, actually, as you were saying, the calls are opening pretty soon, and it's a good time for you guys out there to look into those opportunities. And if you are interested to study or do research in Hungary, I think we go straight to the next presenter, to Sweden, from the center of Europe to the north. And we take questions for both of you at the end after Lina's presentation. So let me welcome Lina. Sorry that we are a bit delayed, but I think it has been so far very interesting. And we have now a very interesting presentation by Rni Cooperation. She's a senior advisor, Office of the Innovation and Science at the Embassy of Sweden in New Delhi. Welcome, Lina, and mic is yours.
Thank you, Samrat. Here we go.
Perfect.
So, my name is Lina, and I work as the Innovation and Science Advisor at the Embassy. Today, we're going to cover a little bit about Sweden, also a bit about studying in Sweden, what courses there are, as well as throw some spotlight on the bilateral research and innovation cooperation and the ongoing as well as the upcoming funding calls. Before we do that, I just thought I'd take you to Sweden with a little, just over a minute presentation, a video. So let's see if this works. So I just wanted to give you a flavor by that video and throw a little bit about the basics. Why Sweden? It's a fantastic place to study and to live. We're going to talk a little bit more about the qualities and the value system about Sweden, but just wanted to give you basic details before introducing you to the study options. So in terms of the language, you don't need to have know Swedish to necessarily study in Swedish. Most of the courses are in English, and it's absolutely fine if you don't learn Swedish at all during your stay in Sweden. You can spend your entire life in Sweden without learning any Swedish. Having said that, if you speak a little bit of Swedish, it's good to integrate into the society. In terms of studying in Sweden, there are over 39 universities and which offer 100 bachelor programs and over 1,000 master's programs. In terms of the number of years, the bachelor programs are 3 years of full-time study, and the masters have both the options of 1 and 2 year programs. The popular courses are in biotech, design, business, engineering, international relations, life sciences, human rights, and sustainability. This is a map of some of the Swedish universities. As I mentioned, over 39 universities and some really popular ones. For example, the Karolinska University and the hospital. That's one of the top one when it comes to health. Again, we have the KTH, the Royal Institute of Engineering. There is a big cluster around the region Uppsala for health and biotech, as well as in Luleå for space tech, and in Gothenburg for automotive cluster. Super simple application process. You apply online. The application deadline is usually around mid-January. In April, you receive your admission results, and in late August, the academic year starts. In terms of the postdoctoral in Sweden, because I see a lot of questions are directed towards that, the postdocs are either a stipend, a fellowship, or have an employment at a universities. You will need to visit individual universities' website. Some are also posting on your access or on a site like academicpositions.com. Some positions are posted in English, some are posted in Swedish, but there is an option of translate on most of the websites. Many PhD students stay on and do postdocs, and there is no standard time for intake of postdocs, so it's open throughout the year. Here is a list of the English language requirement for most of the courses. And roughly an average master's or a bachelor program would cost you 12,000 euros. A lot of scholarships available. Swedish Institute, they have their study scholarships for master students. Lot of these are open for Indian students. Individual universities also offer university scholarships. Coming back to the video, when it's about living and learning the Swedish way, it's about the open way, the green way, the chill way, as well as a queer way. So the classrooms in Sweden go by the first name culture. So there are no titles, it's very non-hierarchical. Again, there is a critical thinking, reasoning, question everything, that's a usual norm. When it comes to learning, it's not really, your degree is not spoon-fed to you. And even if you fail, there is no punishment for failure. Risk-taking is encouraged. When it comes to living the Swedish way, Sweden is known for gender equality. It's the first country to have a feminist foreign policy. It's also very popular among the LGBTQ community to live in Sweden, very open country. Green. Sweden is known to be a pioneer for sustainability. 95% of the household waste in Sweden is recycled. Sweden is also the most sustainable country in the world. I think we all know about the big companies such as IKEA, Spotify, Ericsson, H&M, Volvo coming from Sweden. But did you also know that Minecraft, King, Klarna, Truecaller are also Swedish companies? Coming to the Rni Cooperation between Sweden and India, Prime Minister Modi traveled to Sweden in 2018, where an innovation partnership was signed between both the countries. Under the innovation partnership, a high-level dialogue was held in 2019, again chaired by Prime Minister Modi and His Majesty the King of Sweden. Under the partnership, we have organized a lot of partnership development activities, some matchmaking seminars in the areas such as artificial intelligence, healthcare, smart energy, smart grids, etc. There are also joint industrial R&D projects funded between Vinnova, which is Swedish innovation agencies, and the Department of Science and Technology, as well as the Department of Biotechnology. Sweden and India also have a very active startup collaboration, and now we are also increasingly engaging between the test beds in both the countries. In terms of funding opportunities, there is going to be an upcoming joint forum circular economy, which was recently announced by the Minister for Science and Technology, Dr. Jitendra Singh, at the recently held India-Sweden Innovation Day. And this call is likely to open early next year. And this funding opportunity is for joint research and innovation projects between circular economy between Sweden and India. This is a huge call. There are 5 Swedish funding agencies participating from Sweden in this call. Formas, Forte, the Swedish Research Council, the Swedish Energy Agency, and Vinnova, the Innovation Agency. And from the Indian side, there are 2 funding agencies, the Department of Science and Technology and Department of Biotechnology. So the Swedish contribution on this call is around 65 million Swedish krona, match funded by the Indian side. In terms of some resources, studyinSweden.se is a good place to start. Here you can see a lot about studying in Sweden and the Swedish universities, and there's a good program database. There are also blogs from and testimonials from students. There is really good material on YouTube, especially focused on life after COVID. And you can also always follow the Facebook and Instagram handle Study in Sweden. That's all from my side. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lena, showing us the Swedish, the green, the equal, the chilled way to study and do research. You know, it's one of the most open societies in Europe, and of course, a great experience for people who want to, you know, experience a very egalitarian educational and societal system, of course. I would ask Hilda also to come in, and then we can take a few questions from the audience as well. So, question to both of you: are there any fellowship for undergraduate students in Hungary and Sweden, like, or is it only from postgraduate level onwards?
May I?
I can start with Sweden. For masters, we have some SIs offered by Swedish institutes, but not many for the undergrad. So masters and above, yes, there are fellowships available.
Mm-hmm. Hilda, is there any?
In Hungary, as I mentioned, yeah, in Hungary, as I mentioned, the bachelor, master, and PhD levels are available. Among these 200 places within the Stipendium Hungaricum scholarship programs, if I remember well, 75 places are offered for bachelors and 85 for masters.
Okay. Lena, there's a question about the fellowships you were mentioning. Are they available for all fields of study or only for the natural sciences or for R&D?
So some fellowships are subject specific, and as I mentioned, there is no fixed time during the year. But if you go on the Swedish Institute's website, there are specific fellowships for areas, and they are also in social sciences, so it's not necessarily STEM subjects. So they can be also on journalism, for example. So plenty of other fellowships as well.
Another question to both of you is about what are the job opportunities after completing the PhD? And maybe Anvesh can also come into that question. But first to both of you, Hilda and Lena, are there any job opportunities after the PhD in your countries for Indian students?
So from Hungarian side, at the moment, there is no such kind of visa extending 1 year more after the study, like in the USA. But of course, if I mean, principally the students should return back to India after the completion of these studies. But of course, they can establish good contacts, and might probably later on they will be invited back by the professors to work together. Especially for PhD students, the possibilities are very wide and very open.
And how about in Sweden, Lina?
Similar, although the PhD positions can continue to stay in Sweden to do a postdoctoral research. Having said that, there are over 200 Swedish companies in India. So even if you were to come back after your PhD, there is still possibility to say work with a Volvo Campex or an ABB or an Ericsson or an IKEA. So these companies have a lot of R&D centers in India, in Bangalore and other regions. So I think that's also an additional factor to note.
Thank you, Lina. And what about France, Anvesh? What is the situation there?
So I mean, for Marie Curie fellows, I don't have numbers, but I know people who have moved on to postdoctoral positions, which are a natural continuation in academia, but also to a lot of industry jobs, because I think the number of PhDs that graduate every year is much higher than the number of faculty positions. And so a lot of, I think, industries are looking for fresh PhDs. And in France specifically, you can, so about the visa, there is 2 years of visas for Indians. So India and France have a very good bilateral relationship. So instead of 1 year for other countries, there is 2 years of work search visa. And in fact, I mean, no one should use this in a different way, but there is also unemployment benefits. So up to 2 years, there is unemployment benefits after your PhD. So you can keep searching for jobs, do skill development courses. And the other thing is also to, I mean, as I said, to also go back to your country. So I just met a researcher who did his PhD in France, and then he was doing a postdoctoral position in Switzerland. And now he is going to join IIT Guwahati as a faculty member. So, I mean, I think the future is bright. And yes, one more thing that, I mean, this is the time for, I mean, if people are working on translating technologies, I mean, the startup and innovation ecosystem in Europe is really very, very strong. And I think that is another avenue to explore. And so it's not that you have to look for a job, you can create your own startup and in fact, create jobs. So.
Yeah, and same goes, of course, if you return back to India, there is plenty of opportunities, right? To create your own or company or a startup. I think we take one more question, which is very common. It's about, can spouses or children move along in the MSCA? Yes, there is a family allowance, as we know, for MSCA fellows, but how is it for the fellowships in Hungary and Sweden? Hilda.
So at the moment, the family is not allowed to join principally, but of course, if the students will go back for working, this is another situation. But for the students' visa, there is no family allowance to join.
Okay, and Sweden?
So if you have already applied for a residence permit, then your spouse can also apply for a residence permit alongside the same application. And I think that's valid for around 6 months, but it is a separate process. It's not a joint.
Okay, it's not part of the fellowship. Like you would have to apply separately for residence visa. Okay. Yes, I would say it has been a very long but a very exciting and informative and fruitful afternoon, and I really want to thank you speakers again for coming in and giving these excellent presentations, and also of course my colleagues at the EU delegation, Vivek and Tanya. I think it has been 2 days with full of great information and a lot of opportunities. So now I would say the ball is with you, dear audience, and thank you also for staying with us for such a long afternoon and having very interesting and engaging questions. And the EU Horizon Europe offers you a variety of opportunities for mobility programs, but also, as we have seen, the EU member states have also very attractive fellowships which target Indian scientists, as we have seen with Hungary and Sweden today. So with this, I would like to conclude the European Research Day. You will receive a follow-up email from us with also the presentations of all the speakers of the 2 days, and as well the recording of this webinar. And yeah, I hope that we will receive, you guys will receive applications in Hungary, Sweden, and also that Anvesh talk was very inspiring. And of course, the staff exchange program, which our colleague Marlene presented, might also be of interest for some of you. Okay, that's it from my side. Thank you so much for joining us. Wishing you a good evening here in India and a good lunch time in Germany, Anvesh. Thank you so much. Bye.
Namaskar.
Bye. Thank you. Bye-bye.